Hey, welcome back to the program here on Coastal Daybreak on the talk station, FM 107 and AM 1240. A while ago, we told you at the beginning of the show about a video that was online that was posted by a local person who had recorded a 12-foot tiger shark in the water off of Beaufort Inlet. And in that story, George Frazier says he's a certified free diving instructor, says these sharks are beneficial to our marine environment and beautiful, peaceful creatures that we're privileged to encounter. He considered that a privilege to encounter that shark. Some may not consider that, but our next guest may, in fact, consider that as well. From the UNC Institute of Marine Science, Dr. Joel Fodrie is with us this morning. Good morning, Joel. How are you?
I'm fine.
And where are you today?
I am actually on lovely Skidaway Island in coastal Georgia, and we're down here to try to work with and tag bonnethead sharks.
Bonnethead sharks. Okay, I'm not familiar with them. What?
Yeah, so they're also called shovelheads, and they're basically like a hammerhead shark, except the hammer's not as big. They have fairly small wings, and they get to be 4 or 5 feet long, and seasonally they can be really common, both here in Georgia, but also back home in North Carolina, right around Beaufort Inlet.
Yeah,
it's where we work with them, and they swim around and eat lots of blue crabs, and seem fairly peaceful and docile, but we're trying to figure out how they move around and when they're in our estuaries and when they move out, and if they come back year after year or only one time.
Okay, so how do you retrieve them in order to tag them?
Down here, we're sort of using big seines, big beach seines, so it's like a long net that the two guys, or a guy and a gal, or two gals pull, one person on each end that you sort of pull through the water, and there's lots of shallows down here and some places back home, and you can actually see them finning, that their dorsals stick up, and you just kind of sight target them, and then you sort of wrangle them. And yesterday was our first day, and we saw 5. Did not catch any, but we learned a lot, and today we're going back out. In fact, I'm sitting at the water's edge right now looking for some, and hopefully we'll get a couple today.
So in a sense, you're almost like you're lassoing them.
Yeah, it's just like like cowboys. Ooh, there's one right there. How about that?
That's wow. Yeah. As we speak. Now, Joel, I understand you grew up in Carteret County, right? Native.
I did. I grew up in Beaufort, getting out on the water on North River and in the back sound towards Cape Lookout.
Yeah, and some people may remember in the Carteret News-Times the article after Dean Smith's passing, because you played on that, or you got to know him a little bit.
I played 2 years of JV ball, and then got to practice with the varsity some, and got to find out just how far away I was from being a college basketball player.
But science is more your thing right now. So let's and the Institute of Marine Science, the UNC Institute of Marine Science. Do you do a lot of shark studies?
So we have different targeted shark studies that we do, but we're mostly known for a shark survey program that Dr. Frank Schwartz started over 40 years ago and still runs. So every other week from spring until fall, IMS faculty and staff go out and we set a series of 100 hooks, either a mile outside Beaufort Inlet or 7 miles. And, there's a sort of a 40-year record of what has showed up every other week all throughout the spring, summer, and fall.
I remember being out fishing one time and just having to get in a, I don't know if you would call it a school, but it happened to be maybe several dozen sharks that were surrounding the boat, and there were hammerheads and different varieties, and all just swimming around. It was really quite a marvelous sight to see. And I imagine growing up here, you've seen similar sights.
I have. It's not something you see every day, so when you do see it, certainly enjoy it and take advantage of it and take pictures. But every day I drive across the North River Bridge, and there's been 2 or 3 times in the last 2 or 3 years where there's just a group of, it's hard to say how many, 50 or 100 sharks, and they're feeding on menhaden or mullet. I've even stopped on the bridge one time and just kind of sat to watch for a few minutes.
Yeah. Obviously we have Shark Week has been one of those big things on TV, but what should people know about sharks and our encounters with them?
Well, sharks are out there all the time. Even when you don't see them, you're probably within a few hundred yards of one if you're in the water. And 99.9% of the time, you're not going to know they're there. They're not aggressive. they're playing other roles in the ecosystem. They're picking off weak or injured fishers or turtles or rays, and they exert sort of top-down control to sort of prune those populations of fish or of rays. Worldwide, there's less than 100 shark attacks a year, and in the States, there's around 50, and most of those are in Florida or Hawaii. So the chances of having a negative interaction with sharks are really rare. It does happen. It can happen. They're large, powerful fish. But for the most part, when you see them, just enjoy it because they're neat to watch.
Yeah, in the encounter that I spoke at the beginning, this guy was spearfishing. So if you've got a bleeding grouper on the end of a spear, you might attract a shark.
Yeah. I mean, sharks are they're sort of these highly evolved creatures that have these wonderful senses of smell and magnetic fields and sometimes sight. So if they have a cue in the water, they're gonna follow it. And they remain skittish. I mean, when they see a person, most of the time they recognize that as, well, this is unusual, and I want to be careful here because, they spend a lot of their time not trying to get injured as well as trying to feed.
Right. And again, this is a fascinating research. So what do you have, like operating under a particular assumption or theory about these particular sharks that you're tagging?
Well, we're wondering if they really sort of learned their neighborhood, and that's sort of a truism throughout a lot of sort of fish studies is we're learning that somehow they're able to cue in to a certain creek, and they stay around that creek. And this may be flounder or sharks, but different tagging studies have shown that they'll hang out for a while, and they may leave, but even a year later, they may come back to that same exact creek. And that teaches us a lot about the way they use habitat or how dependent upon they are on local habitat and what it means to maintain healthy local habitats, or if they can just move on to greener pastures down the road. So that's kind of our working question is if we start to tag these fish and are able to track them for days or weeks or months or even a year or two, will they really show a lot of fidelity to a certain area.
In other words, they figure out how to navigate back to that spot.
Yeah, they recognize a shoal or the morphology of a creek, but they figure out how to use their internal GPS to come back to darn near the same spot.
That's fascinating. So, how long will you be down there in Georgia?
I'm here for a couple of days. I've actually brought my son Rafe, wanted to mention him so that he can see what we're doing, and we're gonna take off in a couple of days, and we have a couple of technicians who will stay maybe a few days longer. But in the course of about a week, we want to get 10 sharks tagged down here, and then maybe do some similar stuff right back home later this summer.
Was it the abundance of the shallows? Is that what attracts you to that particular area for that?
Yeah, it's the abundance of the types of shallow habitats, but also the abundance of this species of shark. They're really common here, and this was a good place to kind of come figure out how to do it, and an important place to do it because these bonnetheads are really abundant here.
We've done a number of reports and interviews with people who are involved in different fish tagging studies, and it is fascinating. Now, how much has the technology also aided that? Are you tagging in with particular kinds of tags now?
Yeah, the technology is huge. So these are not like new questions. People 100 years ago were just as curious as we are. But what has changed is the ability to put little electronic devices on fish that serve as, like a flight data recorder. And part of the technology is just miniaturization. So it used to be to get all that technology, they had to have a football.
Right.
And if you put a football on the back of a 4 or 5 foot long fish, that may bother them. But
yeah,
now,
you think.
Yeah, exactly. But now that technology is the size of your pinky finger, and so we're able to put this device on the shark's dorsal fin, and as the fish swims around, it sends out a chirp, and we have these boxes that listen for that chirp, and so the fish has to come near enough to one of our boxes for us to say that fish was there, but we also know what individual fish. We know that fish's unique ID number. And there are other tags, some tags that if you put on the dorsal fin and the fish comes to the surface, the tag will speak to satellites, like a GPS.
Wow,
and
that's
you
cool.
Get you get really precise locations. So there's all sorts of tagging. There's very basic, just you stick a coated like wire bar in the fish, and if somebody catches it, they can call it in. And often we have a reward for calling it in because we want to incentivize communication with fishermen.
Yeah, you bet. All right.
So there's all sorts of approaches.
Again, Dr. Joel Fodrie joining us from the UNC Institute of Marine Science. And down there, how old is your son?
Rafe is 9 years old.
Oh, that's great age to be watching this. Yeah.
Yeah. He's terrified and amazed by the sharks right now.
Well, we'll let you get back to work since you've already spotted one of your sharks there this morning. So maybe
that was cool. It swam right by us.
Yeah, this will be a good day for it. Dr. Joel Fodrie from the UNC Institute of Marine Science. Thanks for joining us this morning.
No problem. Thank you.
This is Coastal Daybreak here on the Talk Station, FM 107 and AM 1240. You can find them online at unc.edu/IMS. And we'll have more to come in a moment.